He looked at Rosaline. So how do you know, August? I held my breath, aware that my rocking chair had come to a standstill. She's my husband's first cousin, Rosaline said. Me and her kept up after my husband left me. August was the only one of his family who knew what a sorry jackass he was. She cut her eyes at me as if to say, "See, you aren't the only one who can concoct lies at the drop of a hat." He flipped his notebook shut and, crooking his finger at me, motioned me to follow him to the door. After he stepped outside, he said, "Take my advice and call your aunt and tell her to come on and get you, even if she isn't 100% well. These are colored people here. You understand what I'm saying?" I wrinkled up my forehead. "No, sir, I'm afraid I don't. I'm just saying it's not natural that you shouldn't be, well, lowering yourself." "Oh? I'm going to come back soon. I better not find you here. Okay?" He smiled and put his gigantic hand on my head like we were two white people with a secret understanding. "Okay." I closed the door behind him. Whatever glue had kept me together throughout all that cracked then. I walked back to the parlor, already starting to sob. Rosaline put her arm around me, and I saw tears coming down her face, too. We walked up the stairs to the room she'd shared with May. Rosaline pulled down the sheets on her bed. "Go on, get in," she told me. "But where will you sleep?" "Right over here," she answered, pulling back the covers on May's bed. The pink and brown afghan May had crocheted with popcorn stitches. Rosaline climbed in and pushed her face into the creases of the pillow. I knew she was smelling for May's scent. You'd think I would have dreamed about May, but when I fell asleep, it was Zach who came. I can't even tell you what was happening in the dream. I woke up, my breath panting a little, and I knew that it had been about him. He seemed close and real, like I could sit up and touch his fingertips to his cheek. Then I remembered where he was, and an unbearable heaviness came over me. I pictured his cot with his shoes sitting under it. Now he was probably lying awake this very moment watching the ceiling, listening to the other boys breathe. Across the room a rustling noise startled me, and I had one of those strange moments where you don't quite know where you are. Only half awake, I thought I was in the honey house, but it came to me now that the sound was Rosaline turning over in bed. And then I remembered May. I remembered her in the river. I had to get up, slip into the bathroom, and throw water on my face. I was standing there with the little nightlight casting its small brightness when I looked down and saw the clawfoot tub with the red socks. May had put on its porcelain feet. I smiled then. I couldn't help it. It was a side of May I never wanted to forget. I closed my eyes, and all the best pictures of her came to me. I saw her corkscrew braids glistening in the sprinkler, her fingers arranging the graham cracker crumbs, working so hard on behalf of a single roach's life, and that hat she wore the day she danced the conga line with the Daughters of Mary. Mostly, though, I saw the blaze of love and anguish that had come so often into her face. In the end, it had burned her up. After the autopsy, after the police made her suicide official, after the funeral home had fixed May up as pretty as they could, she came home to the pink house. First thing Wednesday morning, August 5th, a black hearse pulled up the driveway and 4 men in dark suits lifted out May's casket and brought it right into the parlor. When I asked August why May was coming through the front door in her coffin, she said, "We're going to sit with her till she's buried." I hadn't expected this, as all the people I knew in Sylvan had their dead loved ones go straight from the funeral home to the graveyard. August said, "We sit with her so we can tell her goodbye. It's called a vigil. Sometimes people have a hard time letting death sink in. They can't say goodbye. A vigil helps us do that. If the dead person is right here in your living room, it would certainly make things sink in better. It was strange to think about a dead person in the house, but if it helped us say goodbye better, then okay, I could see the point of it." "It helps May too," August said. "Helps May?" "You know, we all have a spirit, Lily, and when we die, it goes back to God. But nobody really knows how long that takes. Maybe it takes a split second, maybe it takes a week or 2. Anyway, when we sit with May, we're saying, 'It's okay, May. We know this is your home, but you can go now. It'll be all right.'" August had them roll the coffin, which sat on its own table with wheels in front of Our Lady of Chains, and then open it up. After the funeral home men drove away, August and Rosaline walked up to the coffin and stared down at May, but I hung back. I was walking around inspecting myself in the various mirrors when June came down with her cello and began to play. She played "O Susanna," which made all of us smile. There's nothing like a small joke at a vigil to help you relax. I walked up to the coffin and stood between August and Rosaline. It was the same old May, except her skin was pulled tight across her face bones. The lamplight spilling into the coffin gave her a kind of a glow. They had her wearing a royal blue dress I had never seen, with pearl buttons and a boat-neck collar, and her blue hat. She looked like any second she would pop open her eyes and grin at us. This was a woman who'd taught my mother everything there was to know about getting rid of roaches in a nice way. I counted on my fingers the days since May had told me about my mother staying here. 6. It seemed like 6 months. I still wanted so badly to tell August what I knew. I guess I would have told Rosaline, but it was really August I wanted to tell. She was the only one who knew what any of it meant. Standing at the coffin, looking up at August, I had a powerful urge to tell her right then, just blurt it out. I'm not Lily Williams, I'm Lily Owens, and it was my mother who stayed here. May told me. And then it would all come out. Whatever terrible things would happen would. Then I peered up at her, though. She was brushing a tear off her face, looking for a handkerchief in her pocket, and I knew it would be selfish to pour this into her cup when it was already to the brim with grief for May. June played with her eyes closed, as if May's spirit getting into heaven depended solely on her. You have never heard such music, how it made us believe death was nothing but a doorway. August and Rosaline finally sat down, but once I was up at the coffin, I found I couldn't leave. May's arms were crossed over her chest, wings folded in on themselves, a pose I did not find flattering. I reached in and held her hand. It was waxy cool, but I didn't care. I hope you will be happier in heaven, I told her. I hope you will not need any kind of wall up there. And if you see Mary, Our Lady, tell her we know Jesus is the main one down here, but we're doing our best to keep her memory going. For some reason, I felt exactly like May's spirit was hovering in a corner of the ceiling, wearing every word, even though I wasn't speaking out loud. And I wish you would look up my mother, I said. Tell her you saw me and that I'm at least away from T-Ray for the time being. Say this to her. Lily would appreciate a sign letting her know that you love her. It doesn't have to be anything big, but please send something. I let out a long breath, still holding her dead hand, thinking how big her fingers felt in mine. So I guess this is goodbye, I told her. A shudder went through me, a burning along my eyelashes. Tears fell off my cheeks and spotted her dress. Before I left her, though, I rearranged her a little. I folded her hands together and tucked them under her chin like she was thinking seriously about the future.